My name is James. I'm 34 years old, and 6 months ago, my life unraveled in a way I never saw coming. Clara, my wife of 10 years, the woman I'd loved since we were teenagers, sat across from me at our kitchen table one freezing February night and said the words that shattered everything. What if we tried an open marriage? It started with the smell of cologne. She'd come home late from her nursing shift, her scrubs rumpled, her hair tousled in a way that didn't match her usual polished exhaustion. The scent clung to her, something sharp and woody, nothing like the citrus aftershave I'd worn since college. When I kissed her cheek, she flinched. Not much, just a flicker of tension in her shoulders. But I felt it. "Rough day?" I asked, pretending to focus on rinsing Sophie's lunchbox. Our daughter had left a half-eaten apple in it, now brown, and sticky. 3 emergency surgeries, Clara said, avoiding my eyes as she scrolled through her phone. One of them coded twice. It was intense. I nodded, but my chest tightened. She'd always been a terrible liar. The next morning, while she showered, I did something I swore I'd never do. I opened her phone. There it was, a string of texts from a number saved as Dr. Patel. Last night was unreal. "When can I see you again? You're addictive. Does he suspect?" My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. Dr. Raj Patel, the new cardiologist she'd casually mentioned weeks earlier. "He's brilliant, James. Only 32 and already running trials." She'd said it with a laugh, like his youth was a novelty. Now I knew why his age mattered. I waited until the kids were at school to confront her. Noah's crayon drawings still littered the fridge. Sophie's ballet shoes hung by the door. Our home felt like a museum of the life we'd built, and she'd lit a match to it. "Who is he?" I asked, sliding her phone across the table. She didn't cry, didn't beg, just stared at her chipped nail polish and said, "It didn't mean anything." "Then why?" "Because I needed to feel alive again." Her voice cracked. "We've been playing house since we were 19, James. Don't you ever wonder what you've missed?" I didn't, but she'd clearly wondered enough for both of us. Therapy followed. Awkward sessions where Clara called me emotionally stagnant, and I accused her of selfishness. We fought in whispers after the kids fell asleep, our arguments punctuated by the hum of Noah's nightlight. She kept seeing him. "It's just sex," she insisted. "You're still my best friend." But just sex doesn't explain why she started wearing lingerie to work, or why she'd come home with hickeys hidden under her scrubs. Once I found a silver bracelet in her purse, a delicate chain with a tiny heart. The receipt was dated Valentine's Day. My gift to her had been a coffee mug. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday. Noah's teacher called me mid-meeting. "Your son's in the office. He's upset," said a stranger picked him up from school. I raced there, my mind spinning. But when I arrived, Noah wasn't crying. He was sitting cross-legged on a chair, chewing goldfish crackers, chatting, with a man in a tailored suit. "Daddy!" Noah leaped up. "This is Dr. Raj. He's Mommy's friend. He bought me ice cream." Dr. Patel stood, smooth as ever, hand extended. "James, right? Clara's told me so much about you." I didn't shake his hand, just stared at his Rolex, his perfectly trimmed beard, the way his smile didn't reach his eyes. "You picked up my son?" "Clara got stuck in a meeting. She asked me to help." Noah tugged my sleeve. "He said not to tell you. It's a secret game." Something inside me snapped. That night, I packed Clara's suitcase. She screamed, cried, called me controlling. "You're overreacting. Raj would never hurt the kids." "Get out!" I hissed, throwing her toothbrush into the bag. "Or I swear to God, I'll call your parents and tell them exactly why." She left. The kids woke up to her sobbing in the driveway, clutching her keys. Sophie screamed, "Mommy, don't go!" while Noah hid under his bed. I held them both until dawn, whispering empty promises. Now, 6 months later, the divorce papers sit unsigned on my desk. Clara texts daily. "I miss you. The kids need me. Raj is gone, I swear." But yesterday, Sophie found a photo in my sock drawer. Our family at Disneyland, 2 years ago. Clara's wearing mini ears, laughing as Noah licks a churro. Daddy? Sophie asked, tracing her mother's face. When's Mom coming home? I didn't answer. Because the truth is, I don't know who's coming home anymore. The woman I married or the stranger who chose a thrill over us. The first month after Clara left felt like wading through wet cement. Mornings were the worst. I'd wake up to an empty bed, roll over to check my phone and find texts from her. Please let me see the kids today. Or, I made Noah's favorite pancakes. Can I drop them off? I never replied. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Diane with a voice like gravel, told me to keep all communication in writing. She abandoned the home, James. That matters in court. But Clara didn't act like someone who'd abandoned anything. She'd show up unannounced at soccer games, her hair freshly dyed cherry red, waving at Sophie from the sidelines like a pageant mom. Noah would sprint toward her, then freeze halfway, looking back at me with wide, confused eyes. Go ahead, buddy, I'd say, my throat burning. He'd throw himself into her arms while I stood there, counting the minutes until I could pry him loose. One night, after a particularly brutal bedtime meltdown, Noah had hidden Clara's pillow under his bed and screamed when I tried to take it. I caved and called her. She picked up on the first ring. They need you, I said, staring at the crack in our bedroom ceiling. Sophie's drawing pictures of you crying. Noah won't sleep unless I leave the closet light on. Let me come home, she whispered. Just for tonight. I'll sleep on the floor, I swear. For a heartbeat, I almost said yes. Then I heard it. The clink of ice in a glass. The muffled bass of a jazz song in the background. A man's laugh, sharp and familiar, cut through. The silence. Are you at a bar? It's a work thing, she said quickly. The hospital staff. With him? The line went dead. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I drove to the hotel she'd been staying at, a boutique place downtown with a rooftop pool. Her car wasn't there. But parked in the guest spot next to mine was a sleek black Mercedes with a license plate that read DR Edge. The next morning, Diane slid a folder across her desk. Custody evaluations. The court will send someone to observe you and Clara with the kids. They'll interview teachers, neighbors. Neighbors? I gripped the armrests. Mrs. Mullins next door had once called the cops because Noah's inflatable pool was too splashy. They'll also look into Clara's extracurriculars. Diane adjusted her glasses. You said there's proof of the affair? I handed over the phone records, the screenshot of Dr. Patel's texts, the Valentine's bracelet receipt. Diane skimmed them, then frowned. This isn't enough. We need something that shows she's unfit. Neglect, substance abuse, violence. She's a nurse, I said. She's great with the kids, when she's actually around. Then get creative. I didn't like what she was implying. But that night, as I scrubbed mac and cheese off the couch, Sophie's experiment, I found myself Googling Private Investigator Colorado. 2 days later, Clara picked up the kids for her first court-approved visitation. She showed up in scrubs, no makeup, her wedding ring back on. Look, guys, she said, kneeling on the porch. Mommy's got a whole new apartment. There's a pool and a trampoline. Noah leaped into her arms. Sophie hung back, clutching her stuffed owl. Is he there? She asked. Clara's smile faltered. Who, sweetie? Your friend. The doctor. The color drained from Clara's face. She shot me a look. How much did you tell them? I hadn't told them anything. Kids just know. The apartment was a high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows, and a doorman who smirked when I asked for Clara's unit. The investigator, a guy named Vince with a handlebar mustache, texted me updates. Target arrived, WW kids at 6:15 p.m. Male visitor arrived 7:02 p.m., carrying flowers. I spent the evening pacing, imagining Dr. Patel teaching Noah to play golf, complimenting Sophie's art, laughing at all the jokes I'd heard 1,000 times. At 9 p.m., Vince sent a photo. Clara and Dr. Patel on the balcony, his hand on her, lower back, her head tilted toward him like a sunflower. I threw up in the kitchen sink. When she brought the kids home, Sophie was clutching a new stuffed animal, a giraffe with a ribbon around its neck. Dr. Raj won it for me at the carnival, she said. Noah yawned, ice cream smeared on his shirt. You let him take them to a carnival? I blocked the doorway, my voice shaking. Clara crossed her arms. He's not a monster, James. He's the reason we're here. No, she said, her eyes glistening. You're the reason. You gave up on us. I slammed the door so hard the giraffe's ribbon fell off. The custody evaluator came the following week. A petite woman named Lisa, with a clipboard and a too bright smile. She watched me make pancakes, burnt, asked Sophie about school. I hate math, and frowned when Noah mentioned the sleepovers at Mommy's fun apartment. Afterward, Lisa pulled me aside. The children seem anxious. Sophie told me she's responsible for fixing the family. Noah wet the bed twice last week. They're processing, I said. Have you considered therapy? Have you considered their mother shouldn't have cheated? Lisa's smile vanished. She left without shaking my hand. That night, Clara texted, "We need to talk. In person." Against Diane's advice, I met her at a diner off the highway. She looked hollow, cheekbones sharp, nails bitten raw. When she reached for my hand, I yanked it back. "I ended it with Raj," she said. "Bullshit. It's true. I told him I chose you. Us." She fumbled with her purse, pulled out a crumpled letter. "To the best dad in the world," Noah had scrawled in crayon. "He wrote this for your birthday. I was going to give it to you before you screwed your coworker." Her composure cracked. "I'm sorry, okay? I messed up. But I'm here now. I'll quit my job. We'll move somewhere new. The kids, you and me, just please." For a second, I almost saw her again. The girl who'd held my hand through her abortion at 20. Who'd sung lullabies to Sophie in the NICU. Who'd kissed my scars after the car accident. Then the diner door chimed. Dr. Patel walked in, his gaze locking onto Clara like a spotlight. She paled. I swear I didn't know he'd be here." He strolled over, all smarmy confidence, and slid into the booth beside her. "James, Clara mentioned you two were talking. Thought I'd join." I stood so fast the table shook. "You've got 5 seconds to walk away." He smirked. "Or what?" I don't remember throwing the punch. Just the crunch of his nose under my fist, the hot spray of blood on my wrist, Clara screaming, "Stop!" as the waiters pulled me off him. Now, as I sit in a jail cell waiting for Diane to bail me out, I keep replaying that moment, the look on Clara's face. Not fear, not anger, relief. The fluorescent lights in the holding cell buzzed like wasps. My knuckles throbbed, crusted with dried blood that wasn't mine. Diane arrived 2 hours later, her heels clacking against the concrete floor. She didn't say a word until we were in her car, the heater blasting. "You're lucky Patel isn't pressing charges," she said, tossing a folder into my lap. "He's got a conference in Dubai next week. Doesn't want the bad press." I flipped through the file. Photos of Clara and Raj at a ski resort, her wearing the same red coat I'd bought her last Christmas. When were these taken? 3 days ago. Diane glanced at me. She never ended it, James. I knew that. But seeing proof, Clara's gloved hand in his, snow dusting their hair like some romantic movie, made my vision blur. The kids stayed with my sister that night. When I picked them up, Sophie refused to speak to me. Noah, though, clung to my leg like a barnacle. "Uncle Mark says you hit Mommy's friend," he whispered in the car. "He wasn't a good friend, buddy. Is that why Mommy cries all the time now?" The custody evaluator's report arrived the next morning. Lisa, the evaluator, had written that I exhibited volatile tendencies, but was deeply committed to the children. Clara, meanwhile, was deemed emotionally inconsistent and prioritizing romantic interests over stability. Diane high-fived me. I felt sick. Clara's response came via email. "You turned them against me. Enjoy your win." But there was no winning. Sophie started sleepwalking, showing up in my room at 2 a.m., clutching her giraffe, eyes glassy. "Mommy's in the pool," she'd mumble. "She won't get out." The investigator, Vince, called with his final report. I met him at a truck stop diner, the same one Clara and I used to go to after midnight feedings with newborn Noah. He slid a USB across the table. "You'll want to see this alone." That night, after the kids were asleep, I plugged it into my laptop. Security footage from Clara's apartment building. Date stamped 2 weeks earlier, the night she'd sworn she ended things with Raj. The video showed Clara in the lobby, dressed in scrubs, arguing with Raj. He grabbed her arm. She shook him off. Then, clear as day, he slapped her, hard. She staggered back, hand to her face. Instead of leaving, she followed him into the elevator. The next clip was from their hallway. Raj emerged alone 20 minutes later, adjusting his tie. Clara stepped out moments after, her cheek red, eyes vacant. I replayed it 5 times. Then I drove to her apartment. She opened the door in sweatpants, no makeup, the left side of her face still faintly bruised. "James?" I pushed past her. The place reeked of incense and wine. Noah's drawings were taped haphazardly to the fridge. Sophie's pink backpack sat abandoned in a corner. "Why didn't you tell me he hit you?" I demanded. She froze. "How did you—" "Why, Clara?" Tears spilled over. "Because I deserved it." "What?" She sank onto the couch, clutching a throw pillow. "Raj said if I wasn't such a tease, he wouldn't lose control, that it was my fault for leading him on." My blood went cold. "You believe that?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." She laughed, wild and unhinged. "You think I wanted this? To blow up my life? To hurt you? Then why?" "Because I was drowning," she screamed. "The kids, the bills, your mom's cancer, it was too much. Raj made me feel light, like I wasn't just somebody's mom or wife or hospice caretaker." I stared at her. My mom had passed last year after a brutal fight with ovarian cancer. Clara had bathed her, changed her bedpan, held her hand as she took her last breath. I'd been too busy grieving, drinking to notice. "My wife was breaking. You should have talked to me," I said quietly. "I tried, but every time I brought up hiring help for your mom, you'd shut down. When I said I wanted to quit nursing, you joked about us living in a cardboard box." She wiped her nose. "Raj listened. He saw me. So you let him slap you around?" "No, it wasn't like that at first. He was sweet. Brought me coffee, remembered our anniversary." She traced the bruise. "Then he started getting angry if I talked about you. Said I was confused. That I needed to choose." I thought about the USB in my pocket. The video of her taking the hit and still following him. "You're still choosing him." "I'm trying to choose me." She stood abruptly. "But every time I leave him, he threatens to send you the videos." Ice shot through my veins. "What videos?" She wouldn't look at me. "From the hotel, the night you kicked me out. He filmed us." The room tilted. I remembered finding Raj's car at her hotel, the jazz music in the background of our call. Clara's shaky voice. "Let me come home." "You slept with him that night?" "He said he'd delete the videos if I did." She hugged herself. "But he kept making copies. Now he says if I don't get full custody, he'll leak them. Your parents' church friends, the kids' school, everyone will see." I grabbed her shoulders. "We'll go to the police, get a restraining order." "No," she jerked away. "He'll ruin us, James. And the kids, they can't know." I pulled out the USB. "This footage proves he assaulted you. We can bury him." For the first time in months, her eyes flickered with hope. Then the doorbell rang. Raj stood in the hallway, holding a bouquet of lilies. His nose was bandaged, his smile venomous. "Clara, sweetheart, you forgot our—" He saw me and froze. "What the hell is he doing here?" Clara stepped between us. "Raj, please." He shoved her aside. "You're still crying to hubby? After everything I've done for you?" I lunged, but Clara grabbed my arm. "Don't! He'll press charges." Raj smirked. "Listen to your wife, James." "Oh wait, she's not your wife anymore, is she?" He tossed the lilies at Clara's feet. "Pack a bag. We're going to Vale." "She's not going anywhere," I said. Raj leaned in, his breath reeking of mint and arrogance. "You really want to play this game? I'll send Sophie's 3rd grade class a video of mommy moaning my name." Something inside me snapped. Not anger, but clarity. I pulled out my phone, opened the security footage, and hit play. Raj's face, drained as the slap echoed through the apartment. "Where did you get that?" "Every media outlet in Denver has it now," I lied, "along with your DMs to other nurses." "How many married women have you comforted, Raj?" He lunged for the phone. I ducked, shoving him against the wall. touch my family again, and I'll make sure you never practice medicine. For a heartbeat, he looked scared. Then he straightened his jacket. This isn't over. When he left, Clara collapsed. I caught her, the way I had when she fainted at our wedding rehearsal. She clung to me, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I held her, not as her husband, but as the father of her children. The man who'd seen her at her best and worst. The stranger she'd become. We'll fix this, I said, unsure if I believed it. But as we sat there, tangled in the wreckage, Sophie's voice pierced the silence. Mom? Dad? We turned. The kids stood in the doorway, backpacks dangling from their hands. Sophie's face was pale, her eyes locked on the paused video of Raj hitting Clara. Is that why you left? She whispered. Sophie's question hung in the air like smoke. Clara scrambled to her feet, knocking over a lamp. Sweetheart, it's not what you lied, Sophie said, her voice trembling. You said Daddy didn't love you anymore, but he hurt you. She pointed at the frozen screen, where Raj's hand was mid-swing. Noah dropped his backpack and ran to Clara, burying his face in her sweatshirt. Is the bad man gone? I wanted to lie, to spin some fairy tale about monsters and heroes, but the truth was already cracking through the walls we'd built. Yeah, buddy, I said, scooping him up. He's gone. Clara reached for Sophie, but our daughter stepped back. You chose him, she whispered. Over us. No, Clara choked. Never over you. I got lost. Sophie didn't cry, just picked up her giraffe, its ribbon still missing, and walked out. The apartment door clicked shut behind her. I found her sitting on the curb, staring at the parking lot speed bumps. When Grandma died, she said quietly, you told me grown-ups make mistakes sometimes. I sat beside her, the asphalt cold through my jeans. Yeah. Is Mom's mistake bigger than yours? What do you mean? She fiddled with the giraffe's ear. That time you forgot my ballet recital, I cried for days. But this feels like it'll never stop hurting. I had no answer. We drove home in silence. Clara followed, her headlights haunting my rearview mirror. When we got there, Sophie locked herself in the bathroom. Noah fell asleep on the stairs, Diane called at midnight. Raj filed a restraining order. Claims you harassed him at Clara's apartment. He hit her. I have proof. Doesn't matter. The judge will side with him unless Clara testifies. I glanced at Clara, who was pacing the backyard, phone pressed to her ear. She won't. Then you're screwed. The next morning, Clara made pancakes. Sophie ignored her, scrolling through TikTok with her earbuds in. Noah ate 3 bites, before asking, is Dr. Raj a bad guy like Thanos? Clara's hands shook as she poured syrup. Yeah, buddy, just like Thanos. I took the kids to school, but the secretary flagged me down. Sophie's teacher needs to see you. Mrs. Carter, a kind woman with rainbow glasses, shut her classroom door. Sophie handed in this essay. She slid a paper across the desk. The title, How My Family Broke. My mom fell in love with a villain, it began. My dad turned into the Hulk. I think it's my fault because I forgot to feed Mom's fish and she got sad. I stopped reading. She's in therapy. We all are. I know, Mrs. Carter said gently. But there's something else. This was taped to her locker. She showed me a photo printout. Clara and Raj at the ski resort, his arm around her waist. Scrawled in red marker. Your mom's a slut. Sophie ripped it down before anyone saw, Mrs. Carter said. But I thought you should know. I drove straight to Raj's clinic. The receptionist paled when I slammed through the doors. He's with a Patty. I pushed past her. Raj was in exam room 3, laughing with a blonde nurse. He froze when he saw me. Security. I didn't touch him, just held up the photo. You sent this to a 9-year-old? He smirked. Prove it. The nurse edged out, eyes wide. Raj leaned back, stethoscope dangling. You think you've won? Clara's mine. She'll always come back. Keep my kids' names out of your mouth, I hissed. Or what? You'll punch me again? Go ahead. He spread his arms. Give the judge another reason to ban you from their lives. I left before I did something irreversible. Clara was waiting in my driveway, her suitcase by her feet. I'm staying here until the custody hearing, she said. The kids need me. They need stability, not a revolving door. Please, James. Her voice broke. I'll sleep in the guest room. I'll cook, clean, whatever. Just let me fix this. I let her in. For a week, we played house. Clara packed lunches, helped with homework, sang Noah to sleep. Sophie thawed slightly, letting Clara braid her hair while they watched Frozen. I hovered in the doorway, torn between hope and dread. Then, on Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. A process server handed me an envelope. Restraining order violation. Court date's Monday. Clara read it over my shoulder. You went to his clinic? He sent that photo to Sophie. So you gave him ammo to take the kids? She threw the paper down. God, James, when will you stop playing hero? When you stop playing victim. We were screaming now, years of resentment boiling over. Noah covered his ears. Sophie yelled, "Stop it!" But we couldn't. You think I wanted to fall? For him, Clara shouted. You checked out long before Raj. After your mom died, it was like living with a ghost. I was grieving. So was I. She grabbed her car keys. I'm done trying to fix us. I'll see the kids at the hearing. The door slammed. Sophie ran upstairs. Noah hid under the table. That night, Diane called. Raj leaked the video. What video? She texted a link. A Twitter thread titled, Denver nurse's sex tape goes viral. The thumbnail was blurred. But I recognized Clara's necklace. The one I'd bought her for our anniversary. My knees buckled. I muted the kids' iPads, shut off their Wi-Fi, and prayed they wouldn't see it. Clara showed up at 3 a.m., her face swollen from crying. They're everywhere, she gasped. My patients, the PTA group chat. Sophie's friend's mom sent me a screenshot. I handed her a glass of water. We'll sue him. For what? I'm the idiot who let him film. She sank to the floor. I'm ruined. The kids... We sat in silence until sunrise. Then Sophie's door creaked open. She walked past us without a word, made herself toast, and sat at the table. Soph? I said carefully. Everything okay? She looked up, her eyes hollow. Addison sent me the video. She said Mom's a whore. Clara made a noise like a wounded animal. I told her it's fake, Sophie said, spreading jam with robotic precision. But it's not, is it? Noah wandered in then, dragging his blanket. Why's everyone sad? Clara stood, wiping her face. Let's go to the park, guys. We'll get ice cream. No, Sophie said. I don't want to be seen with you. The words hung there, sharp and final. Clara flinched like she'd been slapped. Noah started to cry. The custody hearing. Was that Monday? Diane argued Clara's reckless choices endangered the kids. Clara's lawyer fired back about my violent outbursts. The judge, an older man with bored eyes, ordered joint custody with supervised visitation for Clara. Supervised? She cried. They're my children. And you exposed them to a man who exploits intimate videos, the judge said. Be grateful they're not in foster care. Outside the courtroom, Raj leaned against a wall, smirking. Still think you've won, James? Clara lunged at him. You ruined my life! Security dragged her back. Sophie watched from the bench, clutching Noah's hand. I want to go home, she said. But home didn't exist anymore. Just a house where we tiptoed around each other's broken pieces. That night, Clara showed up for her first supervised visit. The social worker sat in the kitchen while we pretended to play Uno. I'm sorry, Clara kept saying. I'm so sorry. Sophie placed a draw 4 card. Skip Mom's turn. The supervised visits became a ritual. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Clara would arrive with a social worker in tow, bearing gifts she couldn't afford. Lego sets for Noah, sketchbooks for Sophie. The kids accepted them quietly, like strangers, taking charity. Summer faded into fall. Sophie started middle school, her childhood softness hardening into a wary sharpness. She stopped drawing. Noah, though, clung to his innocence, asking questions like, if Mom lives in an apartment, does that mean she's a teenager now? Clara quit her job at the hospital. Raj had been fired after the video leak. Turns out he'd targeted other nurses too, but the damage was done. She waitressed at a diner, her hands raw from scrubbing dishes. Sometimes I'd drive past her apartment and see her sitting on the balcony, staring at the mountains we'd once hiked together. One October night, Sophie had a nightmare. She stumbled into my room, gasping, "Mom's drowning." I held her. Until dawn, her tears soaking my shirt. When the sun rose, I made a decision. I texted Clara, "Meet me at the truck stop. Kids are asking for you." She arrived in her diner uniform, smelling like fry grease and regret. We sat in my car, the engine off, the parking lot empty except for a lone semi-truck. "They need more than 2 hours a week with you," I said. She stared at her chapped hands. The court said, "Screw the court. You're their mom." Her head snapped up. "Since when do you care what I am?" "Since I realized I can't hate you forever." I handed her a photo from my wallet. Sophie as a baby, sleeping on Clara's chest. "They miss you, and I miss you too. Not as my wife, as them." She traced Sophie's face. "What are you saying?" "Move back in. Not as my wife, as their mother." The silence stretched. A trucker honked, pulling out onto the highway. "Why?" she whispered. "Because they're losing you, and I'm tired of pretending that's okay." She moved in the next day. We split the house. Clara took the basement, I kept the master bedroom. We ate dinner together, the kids' laughter slowly filling the cracks in our makeshift family. But some wounds don't heal. One night, I found Sophie in the garage, her hands covered in paint. She'd recreated the security footage of Raj hitting Clara. Bold strokes of red and black, her mother's face a blur of fear. "It's how I remember," she said, defiant. Clara walked in then, holding Noah's forgotten lunchbox. She froze, staring at the painting. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd scream. Instead, she picked up a brush. "His nose was bigger," she said, dabbing crimson onto the canvas. Sophie hesitated, then handed her a thinner brush. "Show me." They painted until midnight. What would you have done in James's shoes? Could you forgive a partner who betrayed your family? Or would the trust be too broken? Should Clara have fought harder? Or was walking away the bravest choice? And what about the kids? Can they ever truly move past this? Or will the scars shape their futures? This story isn't about heroes or villains. It's about flawed people navigating the messiest parts of love. Maybe you relate to James's rage, Clara's desperation, or Sophie's quiet grief. Whatever you feel, know you're not alone. These storms don't define us. They reveal what we're made of. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story moved you, please check out my other videos on love, loss, and the messy beauty of being human. And to everyone fighting silent battles, you're stronger than you know.